My name is Evelyn Florence Morath Davis, and I was born in Whitney. I was born in Sydney, Nova Scotia, on April the 26th, 1927. My parents were in the retail trade. My father, at the time that I was born, had two stores, one on Victoria Road and one at the entrance to the steel plant on Broadway. Later, when I first remember, I was 17 months old when my parents bought the house that I'm living in now. And our family has been in that house since that time. My parents started, a small grocery mom and pop sort of store, but the way that things are, you keep evolving and changing over the years. And they were more a confectionery and stationery type of stores. There were 5 of us girls in our family. My mother had a hat store, and she was known all over the island for ladies' hats. We were in my father's store. When we'd have our lunch, we'd run home, eat our lunch, run over to the store, and stay so my father could go home for his lunch. And they needed an extra person during the lunch hour, so each of us took turns working in the store for that period of time. Well, I attended Eastmount School first, then Whitney, and then Sydney Academy. After I graduated from Sydney Academy, I went to Ottawa, and I studied to be a lab technologist, and I have my CSLT degree as a lab technician. I worked in Ottawa for a couple of years, but then I came back home to get married, and I was able to use my CSLT because whenever I was the only lab technician who wasn't working, and when anyone wanted a vacation or if they wanted to go somewhere, I would fill in for them at City Hospital mostly, or in Dr. Gom's office. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, after school, we came to this building, the museum, and I attended Hebrew school classes every day after school. So this went on for years and years and years. And it was quite a joke, but we used to get together, and we got to know one another so well. We were particularly proud of Nathan Cohen, who was on Fighting Words, I believe was the name of the program. And Nathan's mother used to wander around and say, "What is going to become of him? All he does is read. What'll ever become of him?" But it turned out to be very good for him to be a reader, because he was able to answer so many questions on that program. As a matter of fact, Harry Hirsch, his parents died within a couple months of each other, and all of a sudden he was 19 years old, and he had about 4 or 5 cows, and he didn't know what to do. So he milked the cows, and he went door to door. I can remember him coming to our house and selling us milk first thing in the morning. He saved enough money to buy the equipment for pasteurizing the milk and started Modern City Dairy, so that it became an industry in itself once it was here. We took great pride in one another, you know. We were happy when things happened for each other. I had joined the group, a historical society, the Whitney Pier Historical Society, and I believe it was Elizabeth Beaton, Dr. Elizabeth Beaton from the college, who said we should have a museum to preserve all the different materials and things that we have in Whitney Pier. And a group, I think they have a list of the names of the people who are on the group, who worked very hard and were able to purchase the building. And we had decided, since we didn't have enough people to conduct services, the fence we have on the outside of the building with the Star of David's on it, we call that a mechitza. That means a separating wall. And that is what separated the women's section from the men's section, and it's being used as the fence on the outside of the building. And when we have visitors who come from different places, they are so impressed to see that it's being used outside the building. We would respect the different ethnic groups that came to this area. And it was at that time, when I was on the committee, that we decided to hold a special activity honoring Tommy Miller, who was a member of the black community and the first alderman, the first black alderman, I believe it was in Nova Scotia then. Well, I've done very little for the museum. We have committees who do everything, and I just come in and come when there are cruise ships, so that I can speak to people who come here. But the most important thing that I did was, my mother was the first president of Hadassah in Sydney in 1926, before she married as Ida Fetter. She was the first president of Hadassah here. And when I got married, at the first meeting, she paid my dues. And from there, I went on to attend conventions and attend all the different activities. When I went to the convention in Vancouver many years ago, we heard about the bazaars that they were putting on in Vancouver. I was so impressed with the work they did. I came home and told it to our chapter. I was president of the chapter at the time, and we decided we would hold a bazaar. Everybody got together and we divided it up. We worked so hard on it and held it at Temple Sons of Israel. And we continued for 40 years with bazaars, but now we are down to 11 active members, and we just can't continue anymore. But people still stop me on the streets. When are you having a bazaar? We used to have such good times. Hadassah Witzel is an organization of Jewish women, and we have our very first project was we set up an agricultural school in Israel years before it became a state, because there were so many young people after the Holocaust, and they didn't know what to do with these young people. So they started the school, and they were educated, an agricultural school, and they were trained so that they could work on the land. And when the polio epidemic struck Israel, the president at the time was Nina Cohen from Glace Bay, and she had heard about these special therapeutic baths that could be used for polio victims, and she marched, I would say, because she was very active, across the country and raised funds so that they were able to open an old barracks in Israel and set up these tanks to help the polio victims.